All right. So as always, let's do some check to make sure we're live. Facebook's usually the fastest. I'm going to go ahead and check that out right now. Looks like Facebook wants to tell me about my memories and not tell me about what I'm doing right now instead. Isn't that nice of them? All right. So we are live on Facebook, guys. Let's go ahead and just kind of double check YouTube. Kind of useless if we're not, right? Oh, we don't really care about somebody else's stuff, right? And looks like we're live. Hey guys, there we go. We're on YouTube. What do you think about that?
Excellent.
All right, well, hey, we are live, guys. We're back. We missed the last week. Sorry, that was unexpected, but actually, two of us had things that we just couldn't avoid, unfortunately, and we don't like to miss. But so I hope you'll forgive us for it. I am Jim Gast. That is DJ Myers, and that is Vinny Dalval. And we are No Law Firm Left Behind. How do you guys like that new tag right there? We are No Law Firm Left Behind. That's us. We are No Law Firm Left Behind.
What is No Law Firm Left Behind, Jim?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Vinny. That was almost like it was scripted, but it wasn't, right? So No Law Firm Left Behind is a movement that we started back when COVID quarantines hit to help law firms stay in business. And it's kind of changed. It's kind of morphed a little bit. Now we're still trying to do the same stuff, but in a sense, we're trying to help your law firms be more competitive, keep your staff and your attorneys productive, and get clients calling you. And so here we are today. We're going to deep dive on Microsoft Teams. This is our part 3 and final session, right, guys?
Yep.
Kind of sad,
but our discussion on Teams is not over. One of the things we're doing coming up soon is how Teams applies to your law firm, how you can use it within the law firm. We've been showing off the features and what you can do with it, but how do you take that and apply it to a law practice? That's what's coming up soon.
Yeah. We're going to go, we're going to show some actual functionality. I've got a guest coming up that I just hooked up with yesterday. Mm-hmm. And he's actually an American attorney in China who uses Microsoft Teams in conjunction with OneNote and keeps everybody nice and secure in their own areas, so they're not looking at each other's stuff in OneNote. So if you're working on one case, you don't see the notes on another case unless you're authorized to. And he does it all through Teams. So I'm really excited to actually have him on. I think we're looking at probably late September on him. Also, Dave, remember I told you about the attorney that I met who joined No Law Firm Left Behind, is starting up their practice. He's in charge of the technology for the practice. So he's confirmed that he wants to do it. And so we'll probably have him on. I think that week you're going to be on vacation, right?
Okay, great.
I think that's what it is.
I think it'll be a great replacement
show we've had because I won't be there. It'll be wonderful.
What's that, Vinny?
It'll be a great replacement for Dave.
Oh, yeah. At least he won't sleep on us. He probably won't yawn. So, well, listen, everybody. I always say this: if you're not a member of No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn, and you found this link just through some other means, please go to LinkedIn and join our No Law Firm Left Behind group. All you got to do is search for it. Same thing. I just got done setting up the No Law Firm Left Behind Facebook page. So follow that page and join the group that's associated with it, so that you get all the updates from us and know everything that's coming on our show times. But without further ado, I think we should kind of get right into Microsoft Teams. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Sounds great.
So I am going to share my screen and what we're going to cover today, guys and gals. Sorry for that. It would be nice if my Microsoft Teams showed up as an application today. So I guess I'm going full desktop. I wonder what happened there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go full desktop, guys.
If it's minimized, you can't share it. So
is that right?
That's what I learned today. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Learn something new every day in our Restream platform. You're right. So I'm going to go ahead and share it here. So we are in a demo environment in Microsoft Teams. Guys, can you see my screen okay?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah, I have to actually turn it on. I forget every time for me I have to turn it on.
There you go.
And I'm going to spotlight it. So there's my Microsoft Teams. Guys, can you see it now?
Yep.
All right, awesome sauce. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why Microsoft Teams is called Teams, right? What I said in my video that I put out yesterday, pumping this, is why don't they just call it meetings and chat, because that's what everybody really thinks it's used for. Well, that wasn't the idea of Microsoft Teams. The idea of Microsoft Teams was to collaborate, and it's kind of strange that the icon the icon for the program Teams itself comes even third in the list of things, because Microsoft just knows people use it for more than anything else. Well, I like to actually kind of move that up a little bit, and so Teams is the most important thing to me, or maybe it's more important than even activities. So a little tip right there that you can now move around and reorganize the navigation bar in Microsoft Teams. So why is it called Teams? Well, because Microsoft has developed this application so that people in organizations and outside of organizations can work together on various things. Like so. One of the things you can see here is there's a project launch team, right? It doesn't matter what this is, it's all demo stuff. So we've got a project launch team, and that we put together as a team of people that are going to work together on this particular thing. That's one way you can actually use a team, okay? And Dave, Vinny, anytime you guys want to add in, just interrupt, because I can't see your faces anyway. And then, so you can also use Teams as a department in your firm. So you've got marketing, you've got accounting, you might have billing, you've got human resources, so on and so forth, right? So certainly the logic and reasoning behind splitting up various teams and adding people to those groups, like obviously not all attorneys would be part of the marketing group, and that would be where marketing does all of their collaboration and keeps all their stuff. But you might start an HR group in your Microsoft Teams, and that be a private team. Okay, well, more of an organizational wide team. But Vinny's going to show you how, as a department in HR, you can lock things away from other people in channels, but maybe have policies and procedures or vacation request forms or whatever available to everyone in the organization, in the firm. So.
Let me just jump in here for 1 second, Jim,
Yeah.
just to add one thing. You know, I don't want to get in the technical weeds on this, but when someone creates a team, it's actually doing a whole lot of stuff on the back end as far as like setting up, you know, security groups and all that stuff too, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah. You want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I mean, if let's go back to a world before Teams, before we had this kind of a, you know, interface to work within. You had, you know, products like SharePoint and whatnot, and you would have to go in and manage different SharePoint libraries, and then who gets access to this, who gets access to that. One of the benefits that I've seen from Teams is that it makes this whole thing a lot more intuitive, where like the normal everyday user can go in and set up permissions and whatnot and give access to this person, but not those people. Mm-hmm. And so one of the really unintended benefits is that, you know, you don't have to be very technical to create like a private group area where only certain people can get to things.
Yeah. Why don't I go ahead and show that? I think that's a really good idea, Dave.
Hey, okay. One other thing you can do, by the way, Jim, I didn't hear you mention it yet, is that if you're collaborating with a vendor or partner, you can actually add outside resources. If your organization allows it, you can add outside resources to Teams as well, so that you can bring in partners or vendors or customers into these teams to have the discussions.
I've done that in certain circumstances with some of our customers where we've been working on a particular project. And so I have a number of customers that they're very heavily Teams dependent as well. And they will have their teams and they'll join me in. And so I'm part of their conversation as they're working through a large project. So I've done that several times. It works really good, actually.
Yeah, you got to be really careful. You know, there's a lot of protections in Microsoft 365 that will keep things like DLPs. DLP does apply to Teams, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, you can't like let somebody outside the outside world get a medical record or financial record on a project. But certainly, you know, you still need to practice that caution, because if you add them to a team and a particular channel on that team, then if you put a file on that team, they have access to it. Mm-hmm. They have access to it. Go Go ahead.
Yeah, and you can limit what external resources have access to. You can limit who they can, if they can add people or not. There's a lot of permissions that you can set up for external resources that help protect you. But you're right, you do need to plan this out correctly. And you can set it up so that anybody that manages a team can add external resources, or you can set it up so that only IT administrators can add external resources as well. So there are ways to control it and to minimize what the accessibility is or what the access is if you want to go down that route.
Yeah, and what we don't have time for here is a full dissertation on all of the securities in place when you start using Teams and how Microsoft has it, because it may be a little bit more, or it may be a little bit more secure or less secure than your firm wants it. So I would talk to your IT administrator, or talk to us. Go to No Law Firm Left Behind and post a question. We'll answer it. We do that for free. So yeah, great. Thanks, guys. I'm going to dive into it and show some of this stuff, Vinny, right now. So here we are in my Microsoft Teams. Let me go switch over to it on my screen. And so let's talk about creating a team. How do you create a team? Well, if your organization is giving you the rights to it and hasn't taken it away, you create a team down here. Can you guys see this okay?
Yep.
I'm going to ask it occasionally. I don't want to flake out for anyone. So you would create a team down here. So what do? You click on it, and then you create a team. Well, you could join a team with a code. We're not going to go down that path. We're actually going to create a team from scratch. And actually it says build a team from scratch. And I'm actually going to call it, let's kind of go through this real quick. A private group means that people, even in your organization, have to have permissions to join it. It's not just an open group, all right? A public group is one that everyone in the organization can find and join. So it's not pushed to them, and it is published as available when you go searching for teams. Oh, I got to add Dave back. Sorry, Dave dropped. Dave's having a little bit of technical problems. We got you, Dave. There you are. You're back.
Thanks.
No problem. So public team is one that is published and everybody can see it if they go looking for one, whereas a private one, people can't see and they have to ask to join. An organizational wide one is one it forces everybody to join, okay? So I'm going to call this, actually, you know what? I know it would kind of make sense to create human resources as an organizational wide group, but I'm not going to, because I want a section in HR for public, and I want a section in HR for private invitation only. That would be where we're working on things that people don't want to see. We don't want it, the people in HR don't want the general masses to see. So, Vinny, you think I should create private for this, just kind of go down this path, and it will actually help you? Vinny? I lose Vinny? You're gone, Vinny. No audio.
Nope.
There you go.
There you go.
Want me to create a board? Do you want me to create a private one?
You can create a private one, and that can show how to add access to other folks.
All right, great. I'm going to create a private one, and we're going to call it Human Resources. All right, and you would put a description in here. I'm not going to put a description, and we're going to go ahead and create that one. So
don't forget to give me permissions.
What's that?
Don't forget to give me permissions to manage it.
Yeah, I shall. So I'm going to add Vinny as a member to the group immediately. Okay, because I created the team, I am a member. Oh wait, you're what's your name again?
Pradeep.
Oh yeah, Pradeep. Sorry, forgot about that. So we're using a demo database, everyone. And Dave, what's your name again? Alex. So I'm going to add Alex and Pradeep right now. All right, they are being added as we speak. And you know what? Pradeep's important, so I'm going to make him an owner of that group at the same time. And then close. That's good enough for me for these demonstrations. All right. Now I want you to notice at the top, we've got the channel information here. We've got a few tabs under what we call the general tab. This is what's created at first. Always what it creates is the team and then a channel. These are called channels underneath. And then within that channel, it creates tabs. Okay. So we can also change the picture of the group if we want to, or we can just leave it blank. You notice these have some pictures here. But I'm going to go through right here, and I'm going to show you how to work with the team itself. So let's suppose it's this project team, and I was on it, but I can't be off of it right now. My part's done, and I need to hide it. Well, I would hide that team, and it would be now a hidden team. So notice my teams up here, and then hidden teams down here. And this is very useful because I have a lot of teams that I'm a part of that I don't do a lot with all the time. But when I need something, I need to jump back over to them. And so all I got to do is just come over here and unhide them. So that's one thing to do. Maybe I need to change the name of the team, maybe do some pictures or something like that. So I would go and manage the team. This is how we manage the team. Again, only owners can manage the team, and I believe global admins. Isn't that correct in Microsoft 365, guys?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
or teams there's an option called Teams Administrators as well. That's not a Glow admin that can manage the teams as well.
Yeah, that's good. And so a really good example is, let's suppose that Megan left and Pradeep was not an owner on this team, and IT disabled her account, or maybe it got deleted for some reason. Maybe it was, we delete them after 30 days and nobody touched this team for 30 days, or nobody really noticed. So that would basically, in a sense, leave this team orphaned, and an administrator in Microsoft 365 could come in here and actually manage it. We can also add members from here. That's one way to do it. And let me add Adele, for example. And now Adele is part of the team. She's a member, so I'm just going to leave her in as a member. Now, if this group was available, was a type of group that people would have to request into, there would be pending requests. People would be pending. They would have to ask for permissions, and that would be in here. Because it's not that type, it doesn't show the request membership here, or pending request here. But that's where you find people that are trying to get into the team. Now, I told you about channels, okay? And Vinny's going to go deeper into channels. But this is where the channels are managed in whole. So if there are lots of channels, or channels that have been deleted, they would be listed in here, and then you could administer them right here, as well as over here. But Vinny's going to go through that. I don't want to steal your thunder on that. But if you want to add a channel, it's over there. Settings in the team. Probably pretty important. The most important thing, of course, what do you guys think? The picture? This is HR, right? So let me grab a horrible picture from years past that I just think is funny. It's a reference that you guys will remember and love. Let me find a picture. Oh, here we go. They took her gerbs. Human resources, right? So there we are, human resources. Did you guys see the pop-up, by the way, when I did that?
Mm-hmm.
To change the picture. So these are the permissions within the team. So we'll go through a couple of them. How are we doing on time, guys? Are we serious? We only have 10 minutes left. We're going to go over a little bit. These are the permissions, and what you can do. We're going to have to hurry up so you guys can get to your parts. I'm not going to go over each of these permissions, but read them and be careful with them, remembering what changes you make. You may not want them to update channels or create private channels or delete or restore channels. Guest permissions are for the external people that you invite into. So can you allow guests to update channels? Mentions, team codes, fun stuff, and tags are generally not the most important thing. That you can explore them yourselves. You want to see how often people are actually utilizing your channel, the channel, the team itself, you would go here, and this is how much they're utilizing the entire team, all channels, or you can break down. And we'll come back to apps in a few minutes, but I want to hop over and let Vinny talk about channels now. What do you say?
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, I'll spot my ears.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and so I'm going to minimize some of these channels here so we don't get a little bit confused here. We're going to continue to work with the human resources channel and team. I'm sorry, the human resources team, and we'll talk about the channels in the human resources team. So I'm looking at the permissions for the channel, and the permissions for channels are more about who can post and who gets alerted, rather than who can see the actual channel itself. and I'll show you a couple of things on that so that we can create some channels. So in this channel, the general channel, which is a default channel, by the way, every team that you create will have a general channel, and I don't think that you can delete that channel either. All right. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call it policies. And here's where you set the privacy. This is where you can restrict folks from getting into a channel itself. So when you look at the privacy settings, you have two options. Basically, you can set it accessible to everyone that's on the team, or you can make it accessible only to a specific group. So this was policies, or this was let's say this was reviews, like internal reviews. I would set that to private, right, so that only the HR people can see it. So within the team, I can create a group where I can restrict access to this particular channel so that others in the group cannot see it. So that's how you would manage who can see what channel within a team. So I would go, in this particular team that Jim created, for example, the human resources, I would add the members of the organization that need access to that channel or to that team. We would have a general, which is always there. We would have one called policies that anyone can see. And maybe, so let's create one, right? So anyone on the team can see it. And then we would have, all right, and then we would have another channel called, let's call it internal reviews to go with the HR, to go with the HR theme. And I only want specific people to have access to that. And in here, it's going to take me to the screen where I would select the people in the channel that would have access to it. So I'm going to say Alex has access to it. Actually, what is your yeah? So Alex has access to it. All right, I'm going to add him, and I will have access to it. I created the channel, so I automatically have access to it. But you can see right now that the group is private because of the privacy icon on the group itself. And if Jim were to navigate to his screen, he would not see this channel as an
whereas I would, because I'm signed in as Alex. And the other thing that people didn't get to see was when you added me to that private channel, I actually got an alert through my teams telling me that you had added me to that private channel.
Correct. All right. So that's how you would control access to particular channels within a team.
Can I share that?
Sure.
I'll just pop over here and show it real quick. So there I am. I'm not seeing that channel.
Yep. So that's restricting access to channels. And Microsoft continues to develop this to make it easy. This can be done from the Teams administrative portal as well, from the Microsoft 365 portal.
I think it's important to note also any documents that are put in that channel, they're restricted in SharePoint too. Because the documents in Teams are stored in SharePoint. There's a completely separate area that from the team and other channels where those documents are stored and secured.
Yep, and we're going to go through the tabs in each channel. Dave's going to talk about those and what they are, but correct. Jim is correct. Anything within that channel is restricted only to the people who I gave access to.
I'd like to point something out that I found out this week. If you want to use a planner, you cannot create, at this time, you cannot create a plan in a private, secure channel. I found that out this last week.
Okay. All right. So thanks for that, Jim.
Now, there's one other thing. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
All right. So just some of the things you can do with Teams. I like to, on important Teams channels that I need to keep a tab of, that I want notifications on my phone as well, or I want my icon to blink, like when you get a message or a pop-up to come up. What I do is I go to my channel notifications and I click on all activity. You can do custom, and that'll say what types of notifications you want to be notified for. But in this case, let's say anytime there's a new policy or change to a policy or post about a policy, I want to know. And so I went to my channel notifications and I click on all activity. And now anytime there is a post to that channel or change or reply, I will get notified not only on my computer with a little pop-up, but I will also get a notification on my phone as well. It used to be called Follow This Channel, and they've changed it recently to just notifications. Okay. If I really want to keep tabs of it and I want to know, I want to put it somewhere where it's visible, I may be a member of 24 teams, and I want to make sure that I keep this channel always on top. I would pin it, and when you pin it, you can see that it goes automatically to the top here. It's a great way to keep your important channels with high visibility. As this grows, if I have all of these expanded, the reason I minimize them is because it gets a pretty long list here. And as you can see, if I added one more channel or one more team here, my policies channel would go out of sight. One thing that you can tell on these that are bold, that means there's new messages in there that I have not read in those channels versus the non-bold ones.
I'm not. Also, Vinny, I think you can set it so that it does if it doesn't automatically.
Say again.
So if people put a chat in a team in a channel that you're a member of, that activity from the top left corner can show that.
Correct, it does.
So that's all.
Yep, it'll show up in your activity as well. Yep. So some of the other things you can do within the channel itself is each channel has an email address that's a Microsoft email address that you can send things to, and it will automatically go to that channel. So, for example, on the SpliceNet side, we have an operations channel, an operations team, and an alerts channel, so that whenever we get monitoring alerts and such, it populates into the team's channel so that we have visibility from anywhere that came in. Just another way of sharing information, of populating information into one central place so that everybody sees it.
On some of our stuff, when we have a client project in Teams, which we run projects out of Teams a lot of times for documentation and collaboration, if I get an email that everyone should see on that project, I'll forward it to that channel for that project.
I think Dave dropped out again, Jim.
No, I got it.
I'm here again. I'm back.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
There's also links to a particular channel, so I can send this link to this for this channel to someone so that they can request to join. Since I am the creator and owner of this channel, I can edit this channel, and very similar to, I can put a description in there. I can change the channel name if I wanted to. I can also set it to automatically show in everyone's channel list. And what that does is, if I have a long list of channels here, there's eventually going to be an item that hides them because it only shows so many of them at the same time. And so if I turn off, for example, sorry. I want to see all activity. It will show them as hidden, and it will put them out of sight. As you can see that here, one hidden channel. And I can click on show, and that channel is no longer hidden. All right, so you can do that from within the menu here as well.
Those channels can get pretty long.
Yeah, because the team's channels you can have a lot of different things going on for different reasons, and you may not need to keep tabs of all of them, even though you're on the team. And so that gives you the ability to do that. And then, of course, I can delete this channel if I wanted to. I am the owner, so I can do that. Not everybody can do that.
Power.
Right? So, like I said, you can add external users, internal users to these channels, so that we can collaborate with people from inside and outside the organization as well. Dave's going to talk a little bit now about the tabs across the top here. So I'm going to hand it over to him.
You want to show your screen, Dave?
That's what I'm doing. Let me know when people can see.
It is on like Donkey Kong.
We got it on? Great. Awesome. So what Jim and Vinny have both talked about is very organizational, very security minded. How do we take a group of people and join them into a team? How do we make sure that within that team we have different topics, if you will, different like subsections of that team, different groups within that team, and that's kind of how you think of channels. Now, each one of these are super critical because they control who can get in and who can see what and who can post what and all that good stuff. The problem is that if we only look at the teams and the channels, we don't ever get to look at, the actual information and how that gets put in here. And that's really where your tabs are going to come into play. So I'm going to pop back over here to our Human Resources General tab. And we're going to start with the ones that are pretty much always added, okay? So we've got posts, and I want you to think of posts. Basically, if you've used Facebook or LinkedIn or any sort of social media site, you're familiar with the concept of posts. This is the same sort of thing here where I can just say, hey, what's going on? And that's going to add that post. You'll notice that it gives a reply button underneath. So if one of the other guys, whether it be Pradeep or Megan, were to reply, you should see that update here. So if someone could just reply to that for me. And just so everyone knows, I'm not going to go into the details of the different tabs. I'm just going to show you sort of what the tabs are and what sort of data, what sort of information is going to be shared and managed within each tab, okay? So I guess nobody wants to reply. Oh, there he is. Okay, so there's Pradeep, no one home. I'm going to hit reply. Great, thanks. And you'll notice that that actually replies to Pradeep. So this is a default on any channel that you create, and you're going to have posts. And this is good just for the general information and communication. You also have another critical one, which is your Files tab. And this is essentially creating a document library that is accessible to the members who are access to the team and then have access to the channel within the team. And so this is really all driven by SharePoint on the back end. And this is where you can upload files, download files. You have buttons to synchronize those files locally using the OneDrive for Business tool. So this is where you can do all of file management within that particular channel. The wiki, I don't really use the wiki very much. I don't think, Jim or Vinny, do either of you two really do a lot with the wikis?
I actually use it a lot and delete it right away. That's how much I use it. It's used a lot for deleting.
Got it. Great. So it's added by default, but I don't really use a ton of it yet. I mean, it would be great if you wanted to have sort of user contributed data, knowledge base, et cetera, but we just have other places we do that.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave,
in the past, though, I've used it for that particular purpose like a quick knowledge base of sorts.
Hey, Dave, go back to posts. I'd like to mention something on posts. And would you show how to reply to an old post, right? So go to where you reply, see where you have the replies on each of the posts. I want people to understand that this is not, you don't have to reply start a new conversation every time. You can reply and have long threads on the actual posts themselves, just like on Facebook.
Correct. And Jim, I was going to come back to that because this is one of my pet peeves is because if you reply to an old post, so for example, if I reply to, you can see that this message that Dave just replied to is the latest one in the string. But if I reply to this, hey, what's going on, right? And I don't hit reply within that message, it takes it out of sync. So yeah, we really need to pay attention on what we're replying to keep the conversation intact, because there could be potentially multiple conversations going on at the same time.
Yes.
And you want to make sure that you're replying to the actual conversation and not just creating a new conversation.
Right.
Nothing worse on like a Facebook where somebody's got a long thread and somebody's trying to reply to that long thread, but go to the top and actually comment on the very top comment and start a completely new thread. And now you got disjointed threads of the same conversation.
Yeah. So, and I think the big thing to point out here is, of course, yes, we've got that. You have to pay attention to what you're actually replying to, but it also, what you guys bring up is another really important distinction between posts and chat. Chat is just live stream. You're just adding to the end of the overall set of comments when you're in a chat. And I think it all makes sense. But here, it's really more of an asynchronous sort of engagement where you can go back and you can read through all the posts from any point in time and reply back to them. So it's a little bit more permanent.
Correct.
Okay? Keep it organized. You got it.
So,
Dave, did you go over anyway on how to get files in or out?
I did not. I think just given the interest of time,
that's okay. Just show it, and we'll show just your. You want to show my tab or your tab? It's up to you.
No, so I mean the Files tab right here. We've got a bunch of different options. We can basically go to the Upload button. We could go to Files or Folders, but that's going to bring up actual like client files. So I'm not going to do that right now. For my browsing, so I'm not going to do that. But you would be able to do that, and it would bring up your traditional Windows Explorer, and you would be able to select files, and it would automatically upload it to this location.
But it's also got the big drag files here logo.
You do have the ability to drag and drop as well. You also have the ability to synchronize it, which would add a link to this Teams file storage within your File Explorer.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's really
drag and drop that way too, and it will synchronize up.
And you got, I haven't had to, but you can disable that, right, guys?
You can disable what?
We can disable synchronization to OneDrive for
OneDrive for sync. OneDrive for Business Sync is an administrative function. It's a permission.
So what this does, it keeps a local synchronized copy of your documents in a folder on your computer, what looks like a folder on your computer, and you don't have to go to Teams to get to them. You can also create folders within here, Dave, by dropping down that new. And then you can start to organize things and move things around.
You can even create new Word documents and whatnot directly from here.
Yeah, I don't
you can do it in the web browser and whatnot. But
what this does, when you do this, it opens up a browser-based version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever it is, in Teams. So it's fully functional. And it also works on your phone that way, too.
Yep.
I do like that link though too.
Yep. So real quickly, we see this plus sign here, and you have the ability to add a whole bunch of other tabs. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to hit that, and you're going to see the list. Now, Microsoft has so many add-ins. So all this stuff here at the top, you're going to notice a lot of Microsoft products. These are very straightforward. I'm going to hit Planner. This is going to be creating a project plan. I'm just going to call it Plan because I like to be creative that way.
Dave, this is powerful. Let's not rush through this. I mean, I'm not worried about time. I think anybody watching, they could stop if they want to, but I think this is pretty valuable for people.
Yeah, sure. So once we get in here, give me 1 second here. Let me set something up on my end.
And while you're doing that, if you're waiting for the post-show, I think we're going to go ahead and keep going on this. Sorry about that. I think this is just powerful enough that we should keep going.
So basically, I don't want to go into a deep dive on Planner. The idea is that it allows us to create different types of task buckets and different types of tasks within those buckets that can then be assigned to different people, okay? I'm not going to get into a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and just create a new bucket. So these are basically, think of them as separate sublists for tasks.
Now, Planner is a full web-based application of Microsoft 365. It's not.
And a lot of these items are. So what can happen here? A lot of the items that you're going to see integrated here are Microsoft products that are within the Office 365 suite.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also going to briefly point out some of the third-party integrations that they have as well. So within Planner, we have, what I've done is created 2 different buckets. I've got anyone familiar with Scrum and will be familiar with the concept of backlogs versus active items. And you can move, well, first of all, you can check off a task if it's done. You'll notice that that's moved that task 1 down to completed, and it states that it was completed by me. If someone else had completed that task, it would show the other user. Similarly, you can drag items from one bucket.
Oh, sorry, Dave. Uh-oh. Where'd Dave go? Vinny, are you still there? He probably dropped.
I'm still here. It looks like he got.
We're going to do a full session on Planner in the near future, but I'm going to go ahead and really quick show my form, okay? A form tab. So as you can see here, I'm in the general project, and maybe we want Microsoft 365, just about every plan includes the ability to build forms, and they're really easy to do. So you can click on that plus sign, and you could actually add a form, which is a Microsoft tool, and add a form as a tab, and then design the form, and then publish that form so people can come in here and fill it out, right, under a tab. So maybe we want, okay, if you have expenses on this project, go ahead and go to the expenses form and fill it out. And then we also have the ability to review those expenses. Maybe we don't publish in the same channel. Maybe we publish it in a private channel, but then we can also review the expenses and see, okay, and there's a number of ways you can view these things, but well, we can review the responses to that, and it also can build a spreadsheet in another channel too, so that if you have things that need to be filled out by your group in a channel that's working on something, they can do so rather easily. And Dave was showing his forms that he used, and he was also going to show a notebook probably, but he dropped out, and he hasn't joined. And I lost Vinny too, so. Well, I'll tell you what, we're losing people left and right here, but Dave decided to go ahead and chat to us through the actual. I wonder what that. Dave decided to chat through us through here. Thanks, guys. Cleaning up now. So even though I dropped them, I guess we're having technical problems. We're going to go ahead and clean this up, but I wanted to give you kind of an overview of teams, channels, tabs, and some of the things you can do with all of those things. And then finally, if nothing else, if this helped you, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join No Law Firm Left Behind. Next week, we're coming back with another show. We'll publish that probably on Thursday is what we'll do. So for everybody that had dropped off, sorry they dropped off, but thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week. Take care.